Good morning, beautiful souls. Namaste. Thanks for your patience this morning. Welcome to my Advent calendar. This is day 6, the 6th of December. Let's get right into today's inspirational message, because part of what I am sharing today, as far as a tarot tip, the inspirational message, this all kind of fits together along with one of my favorite things. So today I am using Tarot of the Divine. And good morning to Casey. Namaste. Tarot of the Divine is a fairy tale deck by Yoshi Yoshitani. That shuffles beautifully. Okay. May the messages, may the archetypes that emerge through the fairy tale bring inspiration, connect to potent childhood memories, whether you're familiar with the fairy tale or not, that brings something to the surface, harmonizing, peaceful, remind you of a simpler time, a time of greater contentedness. And as always, we ask these messages be in the highest for the greatest good, and that no harm be done. So be it. Although we are not in the winter season yet, there's something about fairy tale decks and winter decks that tell a story. And I think this is a good one. Okay. Well, these readings are going quite deep. Okay. Let me exit here. Judgment. And I want to get the whole story on the table in just a moment. Look at the body language of the monkey. Good morning as well to Clevis and Tina and Marie. Namaste. There's something about the body language. Good morning, Mary Beth. The monkey appears to me to be hesitating. There's something as well, too, about the lotus that is in the sun. And that journey, if you look at the card, the path that is behind the monkey, the somewhat unclear path towards the lotus at the top of the card. And I was in deep reflection about this last night, trying to find a way to reconcile all the darkness of a card that I was writing about. And sometimes we just need to look for the path, to narrow in the edges of the path in order to go forward. You know, it's not about keeping your eye on the prize, but it's about discipline and limiting focus so that we can follow through and move towards something that is so much greater than all of the little paths and the distractions that keep us quite literally in our monkey mind. Love this card. I have a story I can tell you about this one. 3 of Swords. Okay. So this journey to, you can call it enlightenment, you can call it the redirecting back to your true path, to this stage of your life that you are at, there's always a rehoning and a refocusing that is necessary. And when I see the cards that have arisen on the other side, and remember, these are daily readings, so there's something in this moment, and this is connected more than likely to a loss of one sort or another. Putting the moon together with the Three of Swords, there's something that feels kind of melancholy and longing, and this may be it could be the death of a friend long, long ago, a parent. My goodness, these are childhood stories as well, too. This could be the teddy bear that you lost at summer camp and was never retrieved. And there's something here that feels very old and wistful and haunting. Haunting is a word that it feels very haunting. So what is the lesson in moving through all of these things? Well, you have been journeying through this for a very, very long time. This is one of those big stories, and we are being confronted with it at a darker and more challenging time of year to focus. There are a lot of distractions at this time of year. I love how the girl, like this moon card is very, very potent, the way she pauses on this bridge. And I just imagine her, she's in Kyoto, she's over which river, I don't know which river she's over. It's so beautiful the way that she pauses and honors the moon, and yet she's going on. She's not stopping and fully facing the moon. She acknowledges the energy of spirit and is moving forward. The monkey is hesitating and moving forward. There's also action in the body of the princess, the queen, that's in the Three of Swords card. It's a very poignant story if you don't know this one. There's a hesitancy, there's a pausing and going forward. So my invitation for you today is this. There's something very potent that is waiting for you, that is calling to you. So first of all, acknowledge it. It's old, and you know that it's been part of your story for this lifetime. What one commitment can you make to to help you to refocus and stay on this path? Because the lotus is there, the promise is there, the sun is shining, and it's calling you. And I completely respect all of the things that are tugging at every, tassel on your poncho. But never forget, you and your journey are why you are here. And I think we all need to hear that today. Okay? Oh my goodness, Mary Beth. Wow. I'm so sorry for your losses. Very sorry for your losses. I wish you were closer. Could say that in person to you. Okay. My story was in Kyoto. I lived in Japan for many years. I'm not sure if you are aware of that. And I had, I was young. I was young. I was in my 20s. I was bleached blonde. I was blonde as a child and continued to color my hair blonde for years. And was a bit of a, I guess you could call me a celebrity in my own right. And I did a photo shoot one day on a setting that looked much like this. And I'm not sure where those photos are, but when I saw this card, it just reminded me of that, a time when I felt um, young and beautiful and just, I don't know, it was so poetic. It was a very poetic time in my life. Yeah. Okay, so let us go to, I want to share with you some favorite things. And I think in the mood of loss and all of that, I'm going to share with you one of my personal favorite things first before we go to the tarot favorite things. And I wanted to share with you something about my mother, the mother that I grew up with. And I brought an old casserole dish to the table. Maybe I'll show you here because you can see better. This is a little tiny casserole dish, and I saved two of them. My mother used to make macaroni and cheese, the kind where you actually boil the noodles and make your homemade cheese sauce. And she made it because her mother made it. And, with the breadcrumbs on top, and really unhealthy meal, but it was comfort food. And it was something that I just, I don't know what it is. I guess it is comforting. It's very comforting. It takes me back to my childhood. And we would often go to my grandmother's on Sunday. And the favorite thing would be if grandma made her mac and cheese. And it was just really something. And so I kept these tiny little casserole dishes. And there's something also funny about this, in that these are tiny. These are tiny little dishes. And often when I serve something in this as a single portion, I think, wow, how, for a lot of people, portion sizes have gotten much, much bigger than they used to be. And so perhaps mac and cheese in a small portion wasn't, such a bad thing. But I have a few little retro things in my kitchen that belong to my mother or my grandmother. And it brings me great comfort to have things like that. Yeah. So as far as tarot today, my a favorite tarot thing that I want to share with you. Now, you don't see these very often on my channel, and I think I did do a video once sharing with you. We were talking about black and white decks, and I really think there is a place for black and white cards. This is the Hermetic Tarot. And this is one of my decks in a tin. This is the Inversion Tarot. And this is the Heart and Hand Tarot. And when I'm talking black and white deck, I mean a deck with no color, no splashes of color. This, of course, is Anatorian's deck. I have the black and white version of Mel Moline's deck. And I have one more actually that I recently purchased, and this is because of Clevis. Clevis is a student as well as a member and follower on my channel. And this is one that this is the Gustave Doré. Now this one looks a little bit more sepia. It's not a gorgeous star card. But many of these cards are connected to a historical painting, and this feels like this is a very um, or a story in mythology. There's a lot of Christian symbology in this card as well too. Why black and white decks are important to me, and I really feel like I will always have a black and white deck near the front of my library, is it pares down the essence of the card, and it allows you to find the color. An absence of color allows you to look at something in a very different way. And sometimes it's harder to see some of the details, because when you have a card, like I'm looking at this card from the Heart in Hand, it can be really difficult to see the little bits of detail. But what it does is it for me, it allows me to see the energy of the card in a way that I may not see it if there was color on the card. It's almost as if you are viewing the card at night. And I remember I have a set of decks called Lily White and Lily Black. And there's a few different ways that I view the Lily Black Tarot. I'm not showing you today because it has color in it. But there's something about a nighttime perspective. And that's why black and white decks are an important part of my tarot library. And I think having one to work with on a regular basis is not a bad thing. It gets you to look at the tarot in a different way. And of all of these decks here, the one that, well, I mean, Mel Moline's deck, the Hermetic Tarot, of course, is a classic. But there, I don't know if you know Mel Moline's decks, but she's very intentional with her color and the color scales. All of the cards are connected, so the associated decanic minors, there are symbols that always connect with the major arcana, very cleverly weaving in the symbols of the Thoth Tarot. And I think she's really done something brilliant in her decks. And so we can't really compare any of these. I mean, we can't compare the Hermetic Tarot with the Hearts in Hand Tarot, but they certainly all have their place. And if I have to choose my currently favorite RWS inspired black and white, I would say it's the Heart in Hand. I will be using this one next year in my Marseille. This is the Inversion Tarot. I'll be using this in my, when we start looking at pips in 2024. And yeah, and I would say Mel's deck is definitely up there. One of my favorite black and white decks. Okay, so what I wanted to go back to, and that was my tarot tip for today. And I was using Yoshi Tano's deck, the Tarot of the Divine. And of course, this deck comes with a little white book, and it tells you, actually, I haven't even looked at it. Let's go quickly to the Judgment card. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here. I'm pretty sure the descriptions are quite short. Okay. So there's a beautiful colored, and I'll show it to you in case you don't have this deck, guidebook that comes with it, and you get this short description for the card that is judgment is reckoning. It's sort of a very canned meaning of the card. You could read this in a number of tarot guidebooks, except you have the beautiful colored pictures. I had many fairy tale tarots at one point. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is that I was inspired by one of the members of the Drop M78 Tarot Challenge that's going on right now in Mindful Tarot. And she is using the John Bauer Tarot as her inspiration. And what she is doing for each of the cards is researching the story that John Bauer illustrated. What is the actual connection to the card? And in using those stories, seeing if that actual story has a connection to the card itself. Sometimes it has and sometimes it hasn't. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from reading the story. Well, in Yoshi Tano's book, there was a separate book that was published called Beneath the Moon. And this is a book that you could read without ever having the tarot deck. But what is really approachable in this particular book is that each of the fairy tales is only one page. It's just a one-page story. And that means that you could read one fairy tale a night. You know, this could be your own bedtime story. And there are many decks out there that I think we don't do justice to because we don't take the time to read the story of inspiration. And I think that is a tremendous loss as far as working with your tarot deck. And what's coming to mind now is a great deal of energy that I put into when I received Dame Darcy's Queen Alice Tarot. And then sometime later, I had the Baba Studios Alice Tarot. I always found the Alice stories very interesting. And so I got out an old annotated Alice, and I went through the annotated Alice, and I put the cards in order of Alice in Wonderland and through the looking glass. And that gave me such a better connection to the tarot deck than had I just read and from memory recalled some of the stories. It was a brilliant exercise. And so I can't say enough about going back, reading the mythology, finding the legends that are connected to certain tarot decks. Another one that comes to mind is the literary tarot. And I know a lot of it didn't receive great oh my goodness, I'm looking for the monkey story in here. And see, the other thing in this little guidebook is that the stories are not in any particular order of the cards. I was hoping I could just find the image. Okay, perhaps I'll read you the story of Princess Kaguya. Deepening our understanding of the moon card. This is, of course, a Japanese fairy tale. One day, an old, childless bamboo cutter came across a mysterious, glowing stalk of bamboo. He cut it open and found a lovely, tiny baby girl inside. Delighted, he took her home to his wife, and they raised her as their own, naming her Kaguya. From then on, every bamboo stalk he cut down had gold in it. Gold he used to become rich and give his daughter a fine education and beautiful clothes. As Kaguya grew older, she grew more radiant, and soon word of her magnificence spread. 5 princes proposed to her, and to each she gave an impossible task. The first was told to bring her some stone begging bowl of the Buddha Shakyamuni from India. The second, a jeweled branch from the mythical island of Horai. The third, the legendary robe of the fire rat of China. The fourth, a colored jewel from a dragon's neck. And the final prince, a cowrie shell born of swallows. All 5 princes failed, and Kaguya remained unwed. Then the Emperor of Japan proposed to her, and she denied even him. That summer, Kaguya grew restless and anxious, visibly conflicted about some problem. Finally, like a clear lotus blossoming from murky waters, she confessed to her adopted parents that she was actually a princess from the moon. She had been sent to Earth to remain protected while a celestial war racked the heavens. But the war was over, and her heavenly family was coming to collect her. She was given the choice to stay with the woodcutter or return to the moon and forget her life on Earth. It was a difficult decision with no clear answer. Soon the celestial entourage came for Princess Kaguya, and she chose to go with them. With tears in her eyes, she said goodbye to her foster parents, and when her heavenly robes were placed on her shoulders, her tears disappeared. She forgot her parents and all the time on Earth, and she returned to the moon. Does that help to build associations? As I read that tale, were there other stories? Were there other movies? Were there other links through your own childhood or experience that came forward? For me, there were. I've read it before and I didn't remember what that story was. I think of the popular film E.T. There was a series of films called Cocoon. The moon is a card of difficult choices, and as in the opening reading today, it is difficult sometimes to choose our path. Sometimes we have to make very difficult decisions to step back onto the path that we know is ours, the path that it has a tug to it. And there may be not a member of our family, no one at work understands why we need to do what we need to do. You are the only one. And as I said earlier today, never forget that this is your journey. This is your path. And you have every right to choose you. And sometimes that is, we won't know how powerful that choice is until we make that choice. And so take a baby step today forward and do something just for you to recommit to your path. Take good care, and thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you tomorrow. Namaste.